Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is I, Emily Sophia, here to attempt, emphasis on the word attempt, to break down for you guys the latest episode of True Detective. We are on Season 2, Episode 7, Black Maps and Motel Rooms. So, spoiler alert, before I dive into the mad thick of things, as I shall be bearing as much as I possibly can in this review. Now, the task of the century is going to be endeavoring to encapsulate everything that we discovered in this episode, because you have no idea how long it took for me to comprehend what actually happened. And I was so scared that this was going to be the case. I mean, I've been telling my friend Diego, who I do kind of a weekly podcast show with on his channel, link in the description to that I've just been holding my breath this entire season. Not that there haven't been these big cataclysmic moments that just get you right in the gut. Not that there's been a complete and utter lack of those things. But what I mean is, I knew that everything was going to be tied together in some crazy, twisted, enormous, catastrophic way. And it was, but I had no idea, like, for as confident as I was in my ability to just sort of roll with the punches and to just realize that everything's connected and it's weird, I had no idea just how confusing and convoluted it was going to be when they finally just expositioned the shit out of everything. I feel like an imbecile. I mean, this episode made me feel like I'd had no idea this entire time. And maybe we as the audience are supposed to feel that way. Maybe we are supposed to feel just as much like a fish out of water as Annie and Ray and Paul and Frank do. I mean, is this just some twisted way to get us as the audience to sympathize with our four leads here? Because I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it, except in the way that, like, when I started watching Game of Thrones, for example, it took me about a season to figure out the names of the major players. The sub-major players, the minor figures in this world, their names, I was not on a first name basis with them until maybe like later part of season 2. I mean, that was a labor of love that I underwent to understand that show. And when I finally did, it was so satisfying because I could actually sort of get the gist of what was going on and who's up against who. And that has not been the case this season. Honestly, I purposefully put any minor details and names and situations that came up, I just straight up put them in the trash because I knew that there was no way I was going to be able to retain that information, and I was trying to focus really intensely on the actual characters, which I don't know how well that served me. I tried. I've said this before. I can at times be incredibly detail-oriented, but by and large, I'm a conceptual person, which is why, for example, I love a show like NBC's Hannibal, which shows so much and gives you so much to play with and break down in each and every single scene, and it's supposed to be weird. It's supposed to be crazy. And I was hoping for more of the weird and the crazy in this season overall. But I mean, if you think that the extent to which I don't even know what to say. I don't even know how to say it. Weird and crazy is the way to describe just how confusing this season became. Now, I want to get all that out of the way, and I don't want to keep complaining about it. I'm just saying that I was unable to grasp all the details, and thus, if you were in that same boat, let us sail away into the sunset together and live friggin' happily ever after, because ignorance is bliss. But if you did understand and you were tracking this and you were like freaking studying IMDb, like you're cramming for a freaking midterm, like, kudos to you. And I'm not being sarcastic. I'm just saying, like, wow. You have a level of dedication that I, as a reviewer of television, clearly do not possess. You are holier than I. And I bow at your feet in this instance. Now, I just want to let you guys know that I found an incredibly helpful and clarifying story on, I think it's slate.com. And it's based on a compilation of information from apparently Reddit threads and other discussions that occurred elsewhere in the internet of other people who were equally as confused and trying to... I mean, we have all become the detectives, trying to keep track of what the true detectives are trying to truly detect. What is this? What is this? Like, this is just a whole nother level of what the hell? Now, I need to tell y'all the level of dedication that I tried to bump myself up to in order to figure out what was going on. I made a diagram. Because, see, here's the thing. I am a visual learner. Now, I'm really hoping that my camera does not flip this, because I'm going to feel like a major fool if it does. See, as I am looking at it, like, in my screen, it's backwards, but that I am hoping it comes out the right way. Anyways, I'm a visual learner. This show, or at least this season, has done more telling than showing. And that's something that I have seen come up in other discussions and posts and threads about True Detective, is the fact that we don't have a good frame of reference for all the names that come up in this episode. So, I mean, you have to have, like, the freaking True Detective Season 2 encyclopedia ready. And, like, you gotta have that sucker out and freaking put it right up next to your screen so that you can keep track as you go. Because for all the names that were being spewed out and all the revelations that were being arrived at with Annie and Ray, and just, I couldn't keep up. Honestly, I could not. And I just wanted to, like, plug my ears and just wait and watch and see what would actually happen. And of course, we had some huge game-changing moments that I think just about anybody who's been watching the show could appreciate. But it's all the details, man. Like, God, they're messing me up. So, this, I just need to show you. This is my not totally comprehensive diagram. And I just want to walk you guys through this, just some core ideas and things to walk away with, and then I'll just sort of describe my emotional reactions, whatever else. Now, story time, okay? So we have here at the center, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to be fully in frame and looking at this and talking to you guys, but so we've got the railway in the center. Now the railway is connected to Catalyst. Catalyst is the one that is profiting from the railway that was taken away from Frank, and yada yada yada. The Black Mountain guys are also connected to Catalyst, as is evidenced by the arguable death of Paul. So they're working with Catalyst, who is connected to Police Chief Holloway, which was the guy who confronted Paul down in the tunnels after he was betrayed by his lover, Miguel. Detective Dixon is also kind of associated with what's going on here. That guy got killed in the shootout massacre thing earlier on in the season. Drunk former partner of Ray's. And then there's Kevin Burris and Ben Casper, who they're all affiliated with the LAPD. Ben Casper was serving as the kind of financial overseer of and accountant of different aspects of their operation. So now they are the ones who are associated with the 92 murder and the stolen diamonds, the $2.5 million in the blue diamonds that came up and that Paul was investigating and found out that Dixon had been looking into because he was associated with the thieves who stole them, as well as the murder that went down there. Now, we're going to come back to that. But anyway, so then all those guys shift from LAPD, buy into stuff at Vinci, let the corruption party roll. Now, as they find out Paul's role in all of this, via Miguel, who's working with Black Mountain, who's working with Catalyst, they all come after him. Everybody who's still alive anyway. Detective Dixon and Ben Casper are already in the grave. So it's Chief Holloway who's down in the tunnel. It is Burris who, as you can see my beautiful little picture, delivers the final deadly blow. I'm going to assume that's deadly. He stopped moving. He's got a few bullets in him that are probably in vital places. Now, so there's another aspect of the corruption revolving around the railway shenanigans with Tony Chisani, the son of the mayor, who's trying to push his dad out of business. He runs, or has helped run, some of the sex parties that Frank's guy Blake was involved in orchestrating, and essentially used those in order to get blackmail on all of the big higher-ups and important political figures who come to bang the drugged-up girls and do business, apparently. And then Osip is, of course, the other guy who screws over Frank, who Frank now screws over by blowing up his stuff, which that was pretty freaking amazing. I pat on the freaking back for Frank, who not only got screwed out of the railway, but is even getting screwed out of his bars. You know, the last thing that he has been able to cling on to. So then that all leads to Blake, and then Ben Casper is kind of working this angle as well. So he's kind of involved in everything, sort of this weird glue, this almost joint in the operation. Now, Blake, I gotta say that the scene that went down with Frank and Blake was very Breaking Bad-esque. I was getting some serious Breaking Bad vibes from Blake's final moments and the way that Frank went about that. So now we know why Frank was hesitant to give up the name of Blake, who was the one that gave him the name about Ray's ex-wife's rapist. And now there is suspicion that that Blake was the rapist. And that he gave the wrong name, not only in order to get attention and move up in Frank's business and, self-serving jazz, but that he might have actually been the rapist, and so he framed some other guy, not just giving false information, but giving false information in order to cover his tracks, that being because he's a ginger and the son of Ray and Gina. It's a ginger, okay? So this is how crazy shenanigans are getting. Now, bear in mind that Ray and Annie are now lovers, crazily enough. Still don't know how I feel about that. It almost felt like a little bit too predictable, but at the same time, it's like I knew it was coming, but it wasn't happening, so I just figured that their lives were just going to kind of run in parallel. But they have that really long, extended scene in the room where they both realize that they're screwed. There's an APB out for Annie because of the murder of the security guard at the mansion party. And then, of course, Ray has been framed for the murder of Catherine Davis, who brought everybody back together, of course, in order to keep the, is it the Attorney General guy, Geldof, I think his name was? Vince Mazuka from Dexter, trying to keep him from pushing his agenda too much further, and so on and so forth. And so it's assumed that Catherine was killed by the guys who are associated with the diamonds who killed Paul. And now, of course, this brings us back to Frank. Is he going to get screwed over by Jordan? There is some rumors of possible betrayal on the horizon, which I think I don't know how I feel about that either, because it was really interesting to kind of see this almost power couple that we have in the form of Frank and Jordan. For all the things that could break them apart, surprisingly, they have been operating like a well-oiled machine, aside from their frustration about, how are they going to have a child, make a life for themselves, yada, yada, yada. So it was kind of refreshing to see them actually have what seems to be a healthy relationship, but there have been some talks of things not working out that way. Anyway, so this all brings us to who done it, who put on the bird mask and got the business done. Word on the street is it's that Erica Laura chick and her brother, whom we glimpsed only ever so briefly at that movie set. Oh yeah, you remember that game-changing moment back in the day. But they were the kids, supposedly, from the 92 murder who made a revenge killing, is the general theory that's going around. I could see a lot of validity to that. Now, I'm really hoping that you guys got something from this, but I'm trying. I'm trying, you're trying, we're trying. I think the show is at its best when it shows us what's happening. Like, if we could have more of, like, that intimate scene that we got with Ray and Annie at the end, where they kind of realize everything that they've lost, and there's just this extended time where, oh, sorry, they just have, like, locked gazes, and they're trying to look away, look at each other, blah, blah, blah. Like, we're seeing everything through their eyes and all the unspokens and whatever else. And then the rest of the show is just kind of talking our ears off, trying to catch us up and get us up to speed on how crazy convoluted this whole conspiracy actually is. Now, what I've been racking my brains about ever since I saw the episode is the complicatedness of this absolutely brilliant or absolutely bananas. Like, is this the sign of incredible writing? Or is this just something on a whole nother level? Because I'm amazed at how much research I had to do outside of the show in order to even remotely comprehend this. And I know that this review is just skimming on the surface of the thinnest ice. But man, such work. I feel enlightened. I feel destroyed. I feel confused. And I was just rushing around so much trying to keep up with it in my brain that I think that some of the emotional power of certain moments were kind of taken away. But we did get to see, like, as Annie is sending her family away and Paul is sending his family away and Ray has already kind of isolated himself. It's them against the world. So I think that we are in for an amazing finale now that we've got it all set up. And the pins are down, you know, who's going to be the next challenger to approach? What is all of this going to lead to as Annie and Ray try to fight their way out of this crazy corner that they've worked their way into? I so can't wait to break down this 90-minute finale with you guys. It's gonna be nuts. Did I like this episode? Yes, but I had to sit down and, like, draw this out to make sense of anything, and that alone is half the story. A quarter, maybe. A tenth. I don't freaking know. But, man, there are so many aspects of the show that I so appreciate, and to see the way that everything is interconnected is amazing. But it's almost too big. It's almost more than a single human being can bite off and chew and swallow. See, I bit it off, and I was working my canines and molars on this freaking meat of an episode, but the names, it's the fact that I couldn't put names to faces, and now I'm gonna go to bed. But I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Let's break this down in the comments. I promise I'm going to get to as many as I possibly can, because I am astonished. I'm amazed. I'm dead. So thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, I will be back before you know it.